What do you mean the forklift's down again? Jared Thompson stared at the monthly safety report, jaw tight. The fifth warehouse, his newest location, had reported 3 minor injuries and 1 workers' comp claim in less than 2 weeks. And not a single clear explanation. He'd built his logistics company from a single rented storage unit and a second-hand delivery van. Now, he had 5 full-service shipping warehouses across 3 states. But lately, the tone of his staff calls had changed. District managers gave vague answers. Store managers blamed training gaps. It all sounded like excuses. "Get me on the schedule at Warehouse 5, Jared said to his assistant. "As an entry-level dockhand. Don't tell anyone who I am." Warehouse 5 had opened 6 months ago. Most of the staff were new hires. Jared had never met them. The location was in a different state, so it wasn't odd for corporate faces to be unknown, especially with rotating shifts and temp workers. To prepare, Jared shaved the beard he had had for 12 years, dyed the gray out of his hair, and wore thick-rimmed glasses he didn't need. Corporate sent him in as Tim, a new temp from a labor agency. Reasonable cover temps came and went all the time. His first day started at 6 a.m. A tall, wiry guy named Rick, the warehouse manager, barely looked up when Jared walked in. "Another temp? Great. Hope you can lift," Rick said, waving a clipboard. "We're short 4 people. 1 no call, 2 quit last week, and another guy threw out his back. You'll be shadowing Tyler." Tyler, a stocky 20-something, with deep bags under his eyes, gave Jared a tired nod. "Come on, man. Hope you stretched." By 7:15, Jared was drenched in sweat. They were unloading pallets of boxed window units, each one awkward and heavy, easily over 70 pounds. No lifting straps, no team lifts, just speed. Tyler grunted as he dragged 1 box over the concrete. "We're supposed to have a pallet jack for this," he muttered, "but it's been broken for a month." "Why not get it fixed?" Jared asked. Tyler laughed sourly. "Tried. Rick says we don't have the budget, so we do it by hand or don't do it at all." At 8 OG, a lanky teenager with braces, Jonah tried lifting a unit by himself. He got it halfway up before it slipped and crashed onto his foot. "Jesus!" Jonah cried, stumbling back. Rick appeared seconds later. "What the hell was that?" "I told you I needed help lifting it," Jonah snapped. "Then don't drop it," Rick barked. "That's coming out of your check." Jared's stomach turned. Shouldn't he be checked out? He might have fractured something. Rick shot him a look. "You a doctor now, Tim?" Jonah limped out of sight, muttering. Tyler just shook his head. "This place is a joke, man. Honestly, you're better off quitting now." Jared stayed quiet, but inside, he was boiling. By noon, his hands were shaking from the strain. He'd loaded over 20 heavy boxes, pulled freight without proper gear, and watched 2 more workers complain about back pain. During lunch, he sat with a group of workers in the break room. A woman named Carla sat across from him, nursing a bruised wrist with a bag of frozen peas from the freezer. "Rick says we should toughen up," she muttered. "I've worked in warehouses before. But this place, it's different. They act like injuries are your fault." "You report it?" Jared asked. Carla looked at him like he was naive. "To who? HR? They never answer. And Rick says if we stir the pot, we'll get fewer shifts." Jared leaned back, heart pounding. His worst fear was happening right under his nose. The warehouse was cutting corners to save money at the cost of safety. But the final straw came just after lunch. Tyler and Jared were in the shipping bay, loading a high-stack delivery into a truck. Jared bent to lift a wide box, something that clearly needed 2 people. "Let me help with that," Tyler said. "No time," Rick barked behind them. "Clock's ticking. 1 man, 1 box, move faster." Tyler hesitated. "It's over 80 pounds. "Then lift smarter," Rick snapped. "Or don't bother showing up tomorrow." Jared froze. He watched Tyler struggle to lift that box alone, his face red, arms trembling. It was in that moment, standing in the shipping bay, watching a good man risk his spine for a paycheck, that Jared felt something break inside him. He couldn't stay undercover much longer, but he needed to see just one more thing. He needed to know if this was just Rick, or if the rot went deeper. By the time the truck doors slammed shut, Tyler was leaning on his knees, wheezing. Jared kept his eyes on Rick, who was already walking away with his clipboard like none of it mattered. "Go grab water," Jared said quietly. Tyler nodded and limped toward the break room. Jared followed a few steps behind, heart pounding. He wasn't here to fix things from the shadows. But he needed one more layer peeled back. Bad managers don't thrive in a vacuum. Someone up the chain had to be ignoring this on purpose. Inside the break room, the air smelled faintly of microwave soup and sweat. Fluorescent lights flickered over a scratched-up table where two other workers sat in silence. One of them, a thin man with taped-up glasses, nodded toward Jared. "You're the new guy, right?" he asked. "Yeah," Jared replied. The man extended a hand. "Name's Sam. Been here since this place opened. You get your first dose of Rick yet?" Jared gave a half shrug. "Seems like he runs a tight ship." Sam snorted. "Tight's one word for it. You wait around long enough, you'll see it's all duct tape and threats." Across the room, Tyler leaned against the counter, holding a bottle of water in both hands like it might steady him. "You guys ever see anyone from corporate come through?" Jared asked. Sam shook his head. "Not once. Closest thing is the regional guy, Marcus. Shows up maybe every other month. Stays upstairs in the office, never talks to crew. Just walks around with Rick for 10 minutes and then disappears." "Ever talk to Marcus yourself?" Sam smirked bitterly. "Tried to once. Got told I was disrupting the chain of command. Rick nearly wrote me up for even asking." Tyler looked up. "It's a game. Rick knows how to make things look good when it matters. Boxes stacked neat, safety posters taped up, even the hand sanitizer refilled. But the second Marcus leaves, it's back to no gloves, no help, and no one listening." Jared nodded slowly. "So Marcus knows enough to stay hands off, but not enough to see what's really going on." Sam leaned back in his chair. "Or he just doesn't want to know." That night, Jared didn't go home. He checked into a motel near the warehouse, pulled out his laptop, and opened the internal employee management portal. As CEO, he had full access. He searched for Marcus, 8 years in the company. Transferred from operations 2 years ago. His last performance review was glowing, submitted by Rick. Jared checked the injury reports. The ones from this warehouse were all labeled minor with vague notes. Slight strain, employee chose not to pursue care, incident resolved on site. Not a single formal follow-up. He dug deeper. A pattern emerged. Injuries reported Monday, almost never documented by Friday. Shifts scheduled illegally long, then corrected retroactively. Pay discrepancies fixed only after complaints, never proactively. By midnight, Jared had seen enough. He closed the laptop and stared at the ceiling fan slowly turning above him. The next morning, he arrived 15 minutes before shift. A different supervisor, a young woman named Denise, was walking the floor with a clipboard. She didn't look at him. "You're the new guy?" she asked. "Yes. Stick with Carla today. She's doing inventory in the back." Jared found Carla near the loading racks, tallying part numbers with a pencil and a clipboard. She had her wrist wrapped in athletic tape. "You all right?" he asked. "I'll manage," she replied. "Rick said if I miss more time, I'll be off the schedule next week." They worked in silence for a while, scribbling counts and stacking boxes. It was quieter in the back. Jared could hear forklifts beeping in the distance. "You ever think about leaving?" he asked. Carla paused. "Every day." "So why stay?" She hesitated, then said, "My son's in middle school. I need the hours, and I've been at worse places. Doesn't mean this place is good, just means I can survive it." Jared looked at her, really looked. The dark circles under her eyes weren't from one bad night. The wrap on her wrist wasn't the first she'd worn, and the way she glanced over her shoulder every few minutes said everything about how she was used to being watched. "Anything you'd change, if you could?" he asked. She didn't laugh. She didn't even blink. "We need another forklift. Half the gear's broken. Half the staff's scared. And Rick, he talks to us like we're furniture. I've seen him throw clipboards. I've seen him call girls sweetheart and princess when they ask for help. But if you complain, he cuts your hours. Quiet punishment." Jared's hands curled at his sides. "Has anyone reported that? You really think HR's going to take a call from a part-time warehouse worker over a guy with a 10-year badge and friends in regional?" Before he could answer, Rick's voice echoed across the loading dock. Carla, where's that count? I've got a truck sitting on idle. Carla flinched, handed Jared the clipboard, and jogged off. Jared turned and walked toward Rick. He wasn't going to stay silent any longer. Rick was barking into a walkie as Jared approached, his tone sharp and dismissive. We're already behind schedule because half the staff moves like molasses. I don't want excuses, I want results. Jared stopped just behind him. You treat your team like machines. Rick turned. You got a problem, Tim? I've got a lot of problems, starting with how you talk to your staff, how you ignore broken equipment, and how you punish people for injuries you caused. Rick blinked. You want to lose your spot here? He said coldly. Because I've got a list of temps who'd love your hours. Jared stared him down. I'm not a temp. Rick's jaw tightened. I'm Jared Thompson. I own this company. The silence hit like a dropped pallet. A few nearby workers froze mid-step. You're full of it, Rick said. Jared pulled out his company badge, not the fake one, the real one, with his full name and executive ID. Rick's face drained of color. Get Marcus on the phone, Jared said. Right now, and go wait in the office. You're done here. Rick opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Slowly he turned and walked away. Jared turned to the stunned workers. You've all been working through things no one should have to deal with. That ends today. Carla stepped forward. Her voice was low. Are you really the CEO? Yes, and I'm sorry I didn't come sooner. Behind him, Tyler leaned against the wall, still favoring one leg. Sam stood in the archway, arms crossed, eyes wide. Jared looked around at every face. No more broken equipment, no more ignored injuries, and anyone threatening your hours for speaking up, they're out. A forklift beeped in the distance. The warehouse kept moving, but something in the air had shifted. It wasn't over, but for the first time, someone at the top had finally looked down and seen what they'd built, and he wasn't going to look away. Jared stepped into the upstairs office just behind Marcus, the regional manager, who'd arrived 30 minutes after Rick had been sent off the floor. His expression was stiff, the kind of tight professionalism honed by years of navigating uncomfortable conversations without ever really addressing them. Rick sat in the corner, arms folded, face unreadable. Jared didn't sit. He shut the door behind him and stayed standing. Explain to me, he said, his voice low and steady, how you've been overseeing this location since it opened, and didn't think I needed to know about the working conditions here. Marcus rubbed a hand down his tie. With all due respect, Jared, I've been reporting the numbers. Productivity's up, turnover's within range, and costs are down. I wasn't aware there was a stop. Jared leaned forward. I don't care about the surface metrics. I'm talking about the broken equipment, the threats, and the injury cover-ups. You walked this floor. You saw the same things I saw. You just chose not to ask questions. Rick shifted in his seat. I did my job. You want numbers? I delivered them. You want to babysit a bunch of complainers? That's your call. Jared turned sharply. You're done talking. You're fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you off the property. Rick stood up, indignant. You serious? I've been here over a decade. And in that time, Jared cut in, you've created a culture of fear, ignored safety policies, and retaliated against employees who asked for basic respect. You don't deserve another minute under this roof. Rick's mouth opened, then closed again. He stormed out without another word. Marcus remained seated, his posture rigid. I'm not going to defend him, he said, but I do think some of this comes down to hiring. We've been short-staffed since the first quarter. Rick's methods, he got results. That's what I focused on. Jared stared at him, the weight of the last 48 hours pressing down like a loaded pallet. You're not dismissed yet, but I'm reviewing your record, and I want a full audit of every report you filed for this location. If I find even one more incident that was downplayed or misrepresented, you're done. Marcus gave a small nod, but avoided eye contact. Jared left the office and headed straight for the floor. The crew was working, slower than usual, but more cautiously. No one spoke as he passed, but all eyes followed him. He stopped beside Carla, who was scanning inventory into a handheld device. Her wrist was still wrapped. I want to bring in a safety consultant first thing tomorrow, Jared said. Someone from outside the company. You and Tyler, you two are going to walk them through everything. Every hazard, every broken tool, every process that's not up to code. Carla blinked. You want me to lead that? You've been here long enough to know what's broken. I trust you to be honest. You'll be compensated for your time, and if you want out of the warehouse entirely, I'll find you a position that fits. She lowered the scanner slowly. I'll do it. I just want to make sure no one else ends up hurt. Jared nodded. That's the idea. He moved toward the loading dock next, where Tyler was helping a new temp adjust the straps on a pallet. He looked up as Jared approached. I'm putting in an emergency order for equipment replacements, Jared said. Forklifts, jacks, gloves, anything you've been doing without. It'll ship from our central hub tonight and arrive before morning shift. Tyler looked skeptical. Won't that throw off the budget? Jared shook his head. The budget's not the problem. Our priorities were. That changes now. Tyler gave a small nod, brushing his hands off on his cargo pants. You'll need more people. This crew's been running with half coverage for weeks. I know, I'm already coordinating with recruiting, but until we can onboard more help, I want you and Carla off the floor. You're both on injury watch, and I'm not risking another back strain. You're pulling me off? Tyler raised an eyebrow. Who's going to move the heavier shipments? Jared looked toward the back of the warehouse. I will. I'm not done here yet. He spent the rest of the afternoon rotating between stations, helping unload deliveries, checking packing orders, and sitting in on a restock meeting with the night shift supervisor, Denise. She was one of the few supervisors who hadn't raised any red flags. Her reports lined up. Her crew respected her. The contrast between her and Rick was immediate and visible. We've all been stretched thin, she said, balancing a clipboard on her knee while reviewing shelf counts. But a lot of us stuck around because we hoped someone up top would notice. Most of the time, it felt like no one was watching. They weren't, Jared admitted. That's on me. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, the warehouse had quieted. Second shift was trickling in. Jared walked the perimeter one last time, checking pallets, verifying new safety signage had been posted, and making notes for the next day. As he stepped into the break room, he found Jonah, the young man, who'd injured his foot sitting alone with his shoe off, soaking his ankle in a small tub of ice water. You get that looked at? Jared asked. Jonah nodded. Went to urgent care last night. Nothing's broken, just a bad bruise. Good. I've already approved medical reimbursement, and you're off physical labor for the next 4 days. You'll be on inventory tracking. Carla will show you how to use the scanner. Jonah looked up. Why are you doing this? Most bosses know offense they don't care. Jared leaned against the wall. Because I built this company to help people move things that mattered, not to grind down the ones doing the heavy lifting. Jonah nodded slowly. It's going to take a while to fix this place. Jared pushed off the wall. I'm not in a hurry. I'm in it for the long haul. Outside, the parking lot buzzed with the hum of arriving vehicles. The night crew filtered in, faces Jared didn't know yet, but would soon. He'd made a promise, and now came the real test. Keeping it. He pulled out his phone and dialed his executive assistant. Block tomorrow, he said. All of it. And get me the names of every warehouse lead across all locations. I'm visiting each one. He hung up and turned back toward the warehouse. No more reports, no more filters. If he wanted to know what was really happening on his floors, he'd walk them himself, one by one. Until every corner of his company reflected the values he'd built it on. Jared arrived 2 hours before opening. The warehouse lights were still warming up, casting wide, dull shadows across the concrete floor. He walked it in silence, no clipboard, no disguise, no assistant flanking him. Just a plain gray hoodie and worn boots, same as the rest of the crew. Only this time, everyone knew exactly who he was. Carla was already on site, reviewing the updated safety checklist, with a woman in a blue hard hat, the third-party safety consultant Jared had flown in from Chicago overnight. No company ties, no loyalty to anyone but the truth. That was the point. Morning, Jared said, stopping beside them. Carla nodded. You'll want to see the racking zones. We logged 4 hazards just from yesterday's shift. The consultant checked her notes. I've already flagged the anchor bolts on the south end. They're misaligned. That's a collapse risk if it's not corrected. Jared scanned the wall. How long to fix? Depends on your vendor, she said. But this isn't optional. If I were with OSHA, I'd shut this section down on the spot. He didn't hesitate. Pull it, lock it down, move the freight to the B side if it's safe to do. Carla turned to a junior dock worker and relayed the order. No one questioned it. By 7:30, the morning shift was moving. Jared walked the floor with Denise, who'd stepped up to handle day operations in Rick's absence. She had a calmness about her, not the type that came from being easygoing, but from being prepared. Every process she touched had structure. She didn't bark orders, she explained them, and people listened. We're still 2 people short on inbound, she said, checking her tablet. I've got Carla and Tyler on limited duty, and Jonah's still off lifting. We'll need to stagger breaks. Keep them short but fair, Jared said. And bring in the floaters from Warehouse 3 for the heavy loads. I'll cover the gap until they arrive. Denise raised an eyebrow. You sure? I'm not here to watch, he said. I'm here to work. By mid-morning, Jared was hauling pallet wrap to the staging area when he caught Marcus stepping off the elevator. His suit looked stiffer than usual, and he held a folder like it was a shield. I've reviewed 3 years of documentation, Marcus said, approaching with clear reluctance. Some of it doesn't hold up. Jared kept walking. How much was falsified? Enough to warrant formal review. I've already contacted HR. We'll initiate disciplinary action against anyone who submitted altered reports. That includes me. Jared stopped. Say that again. Marcus exhaled. I signed off on things I didn't verify. I thought I was protecting the company by keeping the noise down. But I see now that I was just protecting myself. Jared studied him. You'll stay on for the transition. After that, we'll talk about what accountability looks like. And it won't be a transfer. Marcus gave a slow nod. Understood. Jared turned back toward the loading dock, where 2 new hires were learning to secure freight under Carla's supervision. The energy was different, tense, cautious, but real. People weren't smiling, but they weren't flinching either. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight, he knew that. But now, at least, it had a place to start. At noon, the safety consultant gathered the entire shift in the break room. It was cramped, some people standing along the walls, others perched on overturned crates. Jared stood at the front beside her. I've completed my preliminary review, she announced. And I'll be blunt. This site has serious structural and procedural risks. Some are due to outdated equipment, others due to poor oversight, but none of them are irreversible. She turned to Jared. He's authorized full compliance upgrades. That includes new jacks, harnesses, and a comprehensive training program mandatory for all managerial staff. There were a few nods. No cheers, not yet, but the silence felt less loaded. After the meeting, Jared stepped outside to call his head of operations. The call was short. The other 4 warehouses would receive safety audits within the next 10 days. No exceptions. Any falsified records would be grounds for termination. No appeals. Back inside, he joined Tyler near the staging area. Tyler was marking shipment labels with a handheld scanner, moving a bit slower than usual, but steady. You ever think about stepping into training? Jared asked. Tyler looked up, puzzled. Training? You've got a good head for process. You're patient. People listen when you talk. Tyler leaned against the wall, thoughtful. I never really thought about it. I just wanted to make it through the day without throwing my back out. Jared smiled faintly. Well, we're going to need new leads, not just to fill gaps, but to rebuild the culture. People like you, that's where it starts. Tyler gave a small nod. If you're serious, I'd give it a shot. I am. We'll talk tomorrow. Later that afternoon, a delivery truck pulled in with new equipment, 2 electric pallet jacks, replacement gloves, and hydraulic lifts. The crew watched as it unloaded, a quiet disbelief passing through the group. They didn't cheer, but several stepped forward and started breaking down the packaging before being asked. Jared caught Carla watching from the far end of the dock. She didn't say anything until he walked up to her. You didn't have to come back, she said. Most people in your position would have sent a memo and moved on. I didn't build this company from a desk, he said. I'm not going to run it from one either. She looked toward the staging area, where Denise was walking a trainee through the new lift protocol. You fixing this place? She asked. No, Jared said. We are. By the end of the day, the south side of the warehouse was cleared and taped off, awaiting structural repair. Training sign-ups were posted in the break room. A new feedback channel had been opened, anonymous and direct to corporate. But more than that, the tone had shifted. Not because of policy, but because people were being listened to, not managed like parts. As Jared packed up his gear and headed for the exit, he passed the punch clock. A few workers were clocking out, quiet but alert. One of them, a woman he hadn't spoken to before, paused as he passed. "You coming back tomorrow?" He stopped. "Yeah, I am." She nodded and walked off, no further comment. It was the smallest exchange of the day, but it landed harder than any speech, not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't. Outside, the sky was turning orange with the setting sun. Jared stood for a moment near the loading docks, watching the crew reset the yard for night shift. He didn't feel triumphant. He felt responsible. The kind of responsibility that doesn't go away when things calm down. The kind that deepens. He pulled out his phone and opened a blank message. Not an announcement, not a press release, just a piece of paper waiting for the first line of a new standard. He typed, "We can't lead what we don't understand. From now on, we walk the floor." And he meant it, every word.